Rightio guys, welcome back to another video. As you can see, we're in the garage and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a wrap-up video on our Simpson trip. Been asked a few different questions from you guys over the course of releasing those 5 different episodes that we've done on the Simpson trip, and a lot of them were sort of quite similar, so I thought I'll do a little bit of a video addressing a few different things about the trip, answering some of your questions, and then going into a little bit more detail about other stuff as well. So let's get into it. All right, so I have my trusty little notepad here where I've written down a few questions that you guys have been asking. So what I might do first is I might just run through some of these questions, and then I might go through some of the other stuff that I wanted to chat about to sort of give a little bit more in-depth view of things that happened on the trip and just general information for you guys that might be helpful if you're actually going to do it yourselves. One of the main questions that I kept getting asked was, would I do the Simo again? And if so, would I do it unsupported? I would 100% do it again, like in a heartbeat. No two ways about it. Unsupported, yeah, I'd definitely do it unsupported again. However, the longer we rode, like the closer we got, because we obviously went from Dalhousie to Birdsville. Closer we got to Birdsville on that last day, the bikes were just getting lighter and lighter, and they were so much more fun to ride. They were so much more easy to manage. You could ride a little bit quicker. You could be a little bit, I guess, a little bit more of a hooligan through some of the whoops and stuff like that. So if I was going to do it again, I'd love to have a crack at it, doing it supported, maybe doing something like a double crossing supported with as little weight on the bike as possible, so you can just get out there and have a proper crack and have some red hot fun. So yes, I would definitely do it again. Yes, I would do it unsupported, but I would love to do it supported just for the sheer hooligan factor of being able to get out there and ride proper quick and have a lot of fun. Next question, what would you do differently? I don't know that I'd do a whole heck of a lot differently. The plan initially was to go to Arkaroola, and when I made that plan, this is from the first trip, the first sort of failed attempt where I went on my own essentially to do it. I planned to go to Arkaroola. I'd seen a lot of people go there, and it's not too far from the Flinders Ranges, so you can still sort of see a lot of that stuff in the horizon. It looked like a pretty cool place to go, so I just initially thought, sweet, we're going to do the exact same route. I had it all mapped out. I knew exactly where to go. I didn't have to stress about trying to create a bit of a plan to go a different way. But the one thing, yeah, I definitely would change is I wouldn't even bother going to Arkaroola for the sheer sake of, we were doing so many Ks. We rode 4,800 Ks on that trip to go a little bit further south to Arkaroola. It was kind of a little bit unnecessary just to go and see it. So as you would have seen, I think it was in episode 2, we ended up sort of pulling the pin on Arkaroola and just going straight to Lyndhurst. I was asking myself on the way there why that wasn't always the plan anyway, since I wasn't so emotionally invested in Arkaroola. So the one thing I'd do differently is I'd probably just not even bother going south, and I'd go the exact same way that we done, but I'd have a closer look at the map and make sure everywhere on there was exactly where I wanted to go. All right, what comms were we using? Just between us guys, we got these cheap, crappy Chinese intercoms. They Bluetooth between the 3 of us. It was a little bit hard to sort of switch between each other. So most of the time, Jake and I were paired up, and then we'd stop and we'd chat to Alex. Alex would sort of punch ahead in front of us for a bit. So we used those intercoms between Jake and myself, and whoever was in front would generally let the others know if there's a 4B coming. It was just sort of to help with communication of, hey, there's something dangerous ahead, or you got to slow down. One of us has fallen off, or can you stop? Don't ride away from us. One of us has fallen off when we need help. So yeah, we use these cheap Chinese crap ones. They're like, I think $30 for a 2-pack, and they worked flawlessly. For what we used them for, they worked fantastic. We played music through them throughout the day on the longer Ks, and obviously talked with each other through the desert, as you would have seen in the videos and stuff like that. So Yeah, nothing fancy, but that's what we used. Comms for anywhere else, I actually forgot to bring my UHF, my handheld UHF, which is, you know, one of those things, just a little bit of a mistake, but forgot to bring that. But, you know, I did have the Garmin InReach Mini, so I could communicate via satellite if needed. Always take the PLB on me as well, in case something goes terribly pear-shaped. So we did have communication with other people when we weren't in service if we needed to. And then, like I said, we used those little cheap, crappy intercoms to communicate through the desert and through the tight stuff where we could actually hear each other. Were there any changes from my first attempt to the second one? Yes. I didn't go through Burke. So the first time I was supposed to be meeting up with a guy. The guy ended up sort of pulling out, couldn't make the leg to meet me where I was supposed to meet him, which was actually Burke. So from the Gold Coast to go down to Burke, he was coming from Sydney, and then we were sort of going to continue on through to Cameron's Corner and stuff like that. We just went straight out through Nindigully Pub, St George, out through Yulo, and then to Inaminka. It's more of a just sort of straight line, and then you sort of head a little bit south from there kind of thing. But yeah, that was the main difference, is I didn't have to go to Burke. I didn't go through Tibooburra. I didn't go through Cameron's Corner or anything like that. Everything else was the same, except for the fact that I didn't have to ride, you know, south through to Burke to meet someone and then continue sort of inland from there. All right, so there are a few other questions. Most of them I sort of feel like I've addressed sort of on Instagram or on YouTube for you, but there's a few other things that is worth mentioning. For you moto vloggers out there, for you other guys that have a channel that might be watching this, I know there's heaps of yous out there, and a lot of yous have actually done the Simo as well, so or plan to do it. So cameras, stuff that I use to film the trip on. Now, I don't have fancy stuff. I don't have like mirrorless cameras with, you know, ridiculously expensive lenses and stuff like that on them. Everything that I do from a tripod perspective or landscape shots, riding in a frame or out of a frame or whatever it might be, I use my iPhone. The camera on that's actually quite respectable. So, and it has a pretty good zoom on it too. So I use the iPhone for all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, great camera for taking stills as well if you want to use them for those thumbnails, and then just photos to remember the trip anyway, or for social media. But iPhone for all of the tripod stuff. Next one for all the point of view stuff is GoPro Hero 12. Obviously have the media mod on it with the mic hooked up to it and everything like that. So for all the drone stuff, I have a DJI Mini 4 Pro. Highly rate that drone. It's my first drone. I've had it for a while now, but it's my first drone that I've actually got that has active track. You can set cruise control on it. The gimbal's ridiculously good. You can turn everything into portrait if you want to use stuff for social media. But yeah, again, DJI, I think they do cracking drones, and that's my second drone. But yeah, the DJI Mini 4 Pro, I think that's it. Anyway, bike troubles, oil consumption, chain, all that kind of stuff. Bike dramas, we really didn't have any. Like, we were kind of quite blessed when it come to anything going wrong. We had that small, obviously that was that bingle that we had with the truck and stuff like that. Oil, I was burning a lot of oil. I have a funny feeling like I might be due for some rings, which coincidentally is going to probably end up turning into a new top end for it. But I was burning a lot of oil over the total trip. Like I said, it's about 4,800 Ks. I burned about 1.2 liters of oil, which is a lot. Normally per 1,000 Ks, when I first got this bike, per 1,000 Ks, I would burn through about 100 mil per 1,000 Ks. So that's more than twice of what I should be burning through. So the bike's done about just under 40,000 Ks now, about 37,000 Ks now. So she might be due for a little bit of a freshen up. Chain, had some dramas with the chain. Silly me, when I ordered the new chain for this trip, I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have, and I didn't order an X-ring or an O-ring. I just ordered a standard chain. Put it on there. When I was putting it on there, I noticed and I was like, oh, okay, obviously I've fucked up here. So it was a little bit too late. I just put the chain on there anyway, kept an eye on it. And as the trip went on towards the end of it, I had to keep adjusting my chain. I'm like, man, this chain's stretching something awful. And it got to the point where I had all of my chain adjustment completely taken up, and the chain was slapping around that bad that it was actually hitting my tire and taking chunks out of my rear tire, which is pretty bad. But thankfully, we ended up pulling into Charleville. I went and seen the Honda shop in there, and one of the blokes out the back, super nice. He took the chain off with me. We ended up taking the angle grinder to it and cutting a couple of links out of it, and then that gave me a whole heap of adjustment to come back. But when he took it out, I said to him, I can't figure out what's going on. I don't know why this chain's stretching so much, because I just assumed it was stretching, but there was that much sand and dirt and everything in there from our trip that you could see the wear marks when you took the master link out. You could see how much it was wearing. Yeah, I was most certainly due for a new chain, which it has on there now. So yeah, that was probably the other thing that I guess you could call a minor drama. But by that time, we were already out of the desert anyway, so it wasn't that bad. Fuel usage. For the actual whole run from Mount Dare to Birdsville, I used 31 litres. Jake used 31.5 litres, and Alex used about 32 or 32.5 litres. Understandably, heavier bike, and you know, he was feeding it a bit through some of those soft dunes to get up it. So Jake and I probably, to be honest, would have ended up using about the same amount of fuel. He stacked it a couple more times than me, and was just losing a bit of fuel through the top of it. So, you know, both the 400s, they used about 31 litres of fuel, which left us pretty much half a tank by the time we got to Birdsville. Most expensive fuel, Mount Dare. I think we ended up paying, William Creek and Mount Dare were the most expensive. I think we ended up paying about $3.20, or it was past $3. It was $3 something, $3.25 or something like that. At Mount Dare, we fueled up all of our fuel. We got a couple of snacks, and we got 10 litres of water. It cost like $191 or something like that, or $192 just for fuel, water, and some snacks. It definitely took a good chunk out of the bank account, that fuel stop. So yeah, most expensive fuel I think was Mount Dare. Nights in accommodation. Out of the whole trip, we only spent 2 nights in accommodation. You know, one of those was at Lyndhurst. We hadn't had a shower or anything like that in something like 4 days, and we didn't really feel like camping. We just come off the Strzelecki and we're pretty sort of grubby. So we camped, we stayed at Lyndhurst Hotel. It was $40 each, and we got a room for the 3 of us. So that was the most affordable place that we stayed. And then we stayed at the Birdsville Hotel when we came out of the desert, because we came in on dark. We were absolutely rooted. We wanted a pub feed anyway, and there was no way that I was setting up that tent. I was knackered. So we ended up getting a room, obviously splitting it 3 ways. The room was about $285 or $290 or something like that. So it ended up being 90 something bucks for the 3 of us each, but probably the best $90 I've spent. Got to go and have a shower, didn't have to set up a tent, slept in a nice comfy bed, and woke up and, you know, wasn't cold or anything like that throughout the night. So they're the 2 costs for accommodation. How many nights were spent in the desert? We spent 2 nights in the desert, 3 days. We spent 1 extra day than we anticipated, and we did take water for it. So we accounted for the fact that there was a higher chance we would possibly end up spending another day and night in the desert, just in case something went wrong. So we took a little bit extra water, we took a little bit extra food, and just conceded to the fact that it may happen, which it did. First day that we're in the desert, I think they call it the washing machine or something like that. First part where you just get pumped by the dunes. The bikes are just stupidly heavy, they're top heavy. You're trying to find your sand feet, the bike's getting thrown around heaps. So we were only averaging, you know, like 20 Ks an hour. It was just shit. So we didn't get very far on that day and had to camp in the desert. And, you know, I had the intention of trying to make it to Popple's Corner, but it's kind of one of those things you don't know until you're there doing the thing exactly how hard it is or exactly how far you're not going to get. So we ended up spending another night, which ended up, taking another day in the desert. So two nights in the desert and 3 days total. When we got to Big Red, we had no water, we had no food, so we were pretty much just running on fumes. But you are passing quite a few people, and everyone's super nice out there. They're not going to tell you to piss off if you say, hey, have you got a bottle of water or something to eat if you get stuck. So yeah, it was all good in the end. Favorite place to stay would have been Oodnadatta. Even though everyone was partying to the crack of dawn, I loved the Oodnadatta Roadhouse. There's just something about it, just good old fashioned service. The ladies there, they're just tops. We came in, and I think there was 10 minutes until the kitchen closed, and we came in and we were just like, hey, we're starving. Is there anything that we can order for dinner? I know the kitchen's closing soon. And they ended up hooking us up with a pretty awesome meal and stuff like that. We had fantastic pizza, some wedges, like fully fed us and everything like that. Wrote a cute little sort of note on the pizza box and stuff like that for the biker boys, as they called us. Oodnadatta Roadhouse, man, that's just, yeah, awesome. Total days for the trip. It took us 11 days to go from the Gold Coast, out Simpson Desert, and then back to the Gold Coast. We left on the 10th day. We left Birdsville, and we rode about 680 Ks or something like that. Can't remember where we got to, Quilpie or somewhere just outside of Quilpie, wherever it was. When we pulled up, I said to the boys, I want to get home the next day. I was so keen to get home, and I've heard this, like watching other people's videos, I've heard this so many times. Everyone's just keen as to get home. They've had enough. They just want to get home and relax and get back to some sort of normal life. But we went to bed. We woke up the next morning at 4 a.m. and we were on the road, I think by about 4:45 or something like that, just dodging all kinds of wildlife. We ended up doing the final 1,000 Ks. It's like 1,600 and something Ks or whatever it is from Birdsville to the coast. So we left at about 5ish, and I ended up rolling in home in the doors about 9:30. So 11 days in total for the trip. Tyre performance, tyres, pressures, all that kind of stuff. Now, this is the first time I've run the Tractionator Desert HT on the front. Felt a little bit sort of unstable to begin with, but the more I rode it and the more it sort of wore in, the better it got. Like we were punching 100, 110 in some parts on the Oodnadatta track. We were running 36 PSI to 38 PSI, high pressures considerably. I was just expecting to get a puncture. I thought it was just a given, especially when you sort of head from Oodnadatta to Mount Dare, the road coming into Mount Dare, it's just savage. It is just rock central, and there are all these shit rocks that they just look like these jagged triangles, just ready to give you a puncture, and we didn't get one. The tires held up really well. Had another Tractionator, Motors of Tractionator Adventure on the back again, and both of them still have a heap of life left on them, and like I said, we didn't get a single puncture, and we're all sort of running on the higher end of pressures. But yeah, super happy with the tires, and I definitely buy them again. Plans for the DRZ. There's a few things that need doing on it. She really does need some TLC. One of the main things that I think I've got planned for it is, in light of the amount of oil that I was using, especially on the highway Ks, was really chewing through it then. I'd like to do a top end on it. I'd like to freshen up the top end, and the difference between top end rebuild kit for just a standard size top end and the big bore kit, there's not a massive amount of difference. So I honestly think that I'd be mad not to go for the big bore. So in the future, I'm hoping to do a little bit of a strip down, rebuild it and do a big bore kit on it, and that should liven the old girl up a little bit. Might drop 1 or 2 teeth on the back and make it a little bit more respectable on the highway. But yeah, plans for this thing, I'm gonna keep it. I don't know what I'd replace it with at this point, so we're gonna keep it and you might see something else on the channel in the near future, but we're gonna end up doing a bit of a big bore build, rebuild on it, so that should be fun. That's pretty much it for the wrap up, guys. Every single one of you that has messaged me, I had people sending me photos. Brendan from, where was it? I think he seen me at St. George, sent me some photos. Hey mate, just seen you, where are you, where are you going, what are you doing? I had other people come up to me throughout the trip and go, hey, I watch your channel, you know, thanks for doing the videos. So it's more like, no, thank you. Thank you everyone for watching my videos. Thank you for commenting, saying, you know, all these nice things. It really makes it sort of worth doing these videos as much as I do them for myself. So obviously put that content up for you guys to see as well. So yeah, all of the support, it is very much appreciated, and I love getting on there and having a bit of a chat and you guys telling me what trip you done, or you know, I went through there and it was heaps more mud the time I went through, or whatever. I love hearing that kind of stuff. So thanks for getting on the channel and interacting. It's yeah, it's all good fun. So that's it for the wrap up video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this little one. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of information maybe to help you plan for your trip, or just sort of giving you an insight and answer some of the questions you might have had about our trip. But as always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.